If you've ever applied for a loan, there's a pretty good chance that whoever has reviewed that application has taken a close look at your credit score, which is essentially a number that gives them a sense for how likely you are to pay back your debts on time and in full. But before we get into a discussion of how that score is calculated or what you can do to improve it, it's worth asking whether or not this even really matters. In other words, what difference does a credit score actually make on your finances at the end of the day? Well, the answer is it can actually make a pretty big difference, and to illustrate why, it might be helpful to imagine the story of two people, Sally and Emma. Now, on paper, Sally and Emma are very similar. As it turns out, they've both gone to the exact same school, they both have the exact same job as accountants for a firm in Chicago, and they both have the exact same amount of money in their bank accounts. The one difference is in their credit scores. Sally, as it turns out, has a FICO credit score of 770, which is considered excellent. It's out of 850. Whereas Emma has a much more middle-of-the-road score of 670. So what difference does this make? Well, let's say the two of them decided they wanted to buy identical homes right next door to one another in Chicago for $375,000. Odds are the first place they would go to would be the bank. So after going to the bank and agreeing to paying a $75,000 down payment, the two of them sit down and ask for 30-year, $300,000 loans. But see, the bank is going to look at them very differently. And that's because of this number right here. To the bank, Sally's credit score of 770 suggests that she's an excellent borrower, that she's very likely to pay off her debt on time and in full. However, when they take a look at Emma's score over here, it gives them less confidence. She poses more of a risk, the risk that she won't pay it all back on time or in full. And so for that reason, they're going to end up charging them different interest rates. So they might go to Sally and say, because of your excellent credit score, we'll offer you an interest rate of 4% on this loan. But in Emma's case, they'd likely charge her something higher. So in this case, let's say it's 4.6%. And what this would translate to is that simply because of her lower credit score, Emma is going to have to end up paying $105 more per month than Sally will for the exact same home. And this is all the extra interest she'd be paying. Now, this might not sound like a whole lot of money until you realize that this is over the course of 30 years. So what we've done here is we've plotted what somebody could expect to pay for that same home in Chicago depending on his or her credit score. And as you can see, someone right here in Emma's camp, in the 660 to 679 range, would likely end up paying a total of $554,000 over the lifetime of the loan. This is the $300,000 in principal plus all the interest that's tacked on top of that. But see, someone in Sally's camp in the 760 to 850 range would likely end up paying much less, somewhere in the realm of $515,000, which means that simply because of her higher credit score, Sally is going to end up saving nearly $40,000 over the lifetime of the loan. So the point here is pretty simple. You have every incentive to bring that score up as much as possible because as that credit score comes up, the amount that you ultimately have to pay in interest goes down, which is money in your pockets. Now, to answer how this score is actually calculated and what you can do to improve it, check out our video on that topic.